All right, guys, welcome back to Nemo's Supercoach. So, big week in terms of footy news, and we're going to break it all down. We're going to break down how it's Supercoach relevant anyway. I'm not going to get into like sort of the actual AFL stuff itself, but yeah, or like the news sort of stuff. But I'm going to sort of break down how it's relevant for us in Supercoach. So, if you're new to the channel, like, subscribe, comment. You probably are new because let's be real, it's a fairly new channel. So yeah, like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you guys want to see. Just moving forward, what I'm looking at doing is probably doing 2 videos a week from now on, and sort of making, unless there's like something sort of like a special video in between, maybe like a stream or something like that in the future, like a watch along type thing, Q&A. But thinking about doing like a big video sort of midweek like this that sort of has all the news, what's relevant, and a preview of the week ahead. Well, I think it's going to be quite big because you're going to be looking at what I'm doing for trades, what you guys can do for your trades, trade targets, that kind of thing, strategy stuff. And then I'm just going to do like a shorter review after the round just to see how my team went and see if we can talk about how you guys went as well. So, let me know how you find sort of this longer form video, and we will just go from there. So as you can see, let's just break down the news from the week, I suppose, to start. So Brad Scott getting sacked. It's been absolutely everywhere. But why is this relevant for us super coaches? So that's what we're going to break into now, because that's kind of what's relevant for us anyway. So let's jump in and have a look, why don't we? My computer is struggling. It's on struggle street right now. So let's have a look at the players that it's going to directly affect, and they're obviously going to be the players from the Bombers. This is taking an absolute eternity. Alrighty, so looking at our Essendon players, let's talk about each one and how they're going to be affected. So Zach Merrett firstly. So Zach Merrett, obviously a superstar player, 114 average so far this season. I don't think his role is going to be affected too much with the new coach taking over in Dean Solomon. I think they're going to need him to sort of play in the guts. They don't have much experience around their youngsters. I wouldn't expect to see a drop in Zach Merrett's score. So if you're an owner, I think you're safe. If you're trading in, I think you're safe. That's just my opinion. Archie Roberts, on the other hand, is tricky. So there's a few things that might come into play here. He is probably the most versatile of all those rebounding defenders, what Essendon all of a sudden seem to be having an abundance of, like the only position they sort of have covered. You think they have Jacob Farrow, they have Redmond, they have Ridley, who's just about to come back, and they also just drafted Jackson Artemis in the mid-season draft, who is also a rebounding sort of distributor halfback. Archie Roberts is the most flexible and can play midfield and quite effectively, had over 30 touches in there on the weekend. For me, I probably wouldn't be trading into Archie Roberts at this stage. I'd be having a look first. If you have him, though, obviously a hold. We've had him since the start. He was a starting pick for us, so happy with that. And he's obviously a hold if you started him. But if you're trading in, just be wary. There could be a role change. Not that I think it's the worst thing if he goes into the midfield, but could affect his scoring. But do I think he's still top 6 defender? I do. I'm confident in that. But just watch this space. Darcy Parish, he's still in 13.6% of side, so I feel like I have to talk about him. I don't know if he should be. You've made 150k on him. It's probably in the next couple of weeks, maybe get him through to his buy and then upgrade him. Upgrade him to a proper premium that's going to average over 100 and more. That's going to average over 96. You might be able to turn him into a Baz Smith, Isaac Heaney, a Zach Merrett even. Someone like that. That extra 20 points between Darcy Parish and Zach Merrett average is important per week. Peter Wright's out injured, Andy McGrath's out injured, Jack Caldwell's out injured, and so is Sam Durham. But the reason why all of those injuries are kind of relevant is for the other players, as none of those guys, apart from Sam Durham, is very Supercoach relevant. Durham is interesting though, because he will come back and I think be low 300s and can definitely be an option for sort of like an F6 or maybe a floater. Last year he was ascending to being sort of like a top line midfielder in terms of like the AFL, maybe not Supercoach, but those players are generally good forward options. So he'd be a watch for me. I think he will get the role when he gets back. So watch Sam Durham. For those 2% that still have him, you'd definitely be holding. I think he's only out for a week, so definitely hold Sam Durham. Where the injuries are important, especially the Durham, Caldwell, and Wright injury, are the players that replace them. They're quite popular players. We spoke about Farrow before. He's actually a nice hold. 91 is going to make some more cash. Probably could hold him through to his buy now, and he'll provide good cover and cash him in at maybe 350k. What's nice. So good hold for you guys that held him. Sullivan Roby looks like a gun to me. I don't think he's going to lose his midfield minutes. With the new coach, I think they're going to give people they're going to give the fans what they want to see. So they want to see these kids in the midfield having a go. You know, the big hit on Brad Scott was maybe his development wasn't there. Not playing the kids. I think they're going to play the kids through these positions now. So he's one I don't think I think he'll just stay at his CBAs that he was getting now. Sardis. So this is our man. 10% aside still have Sardis. He will come back this week. I'm almost certain he will come back this week. I'll be so surprised if he doesn't. I think he'll be played as an inside midfielder, and I think he'll get the opportunity, especially at least while Caldwell's out and while Durham's out. So hopefully we see Sardis back in. I only need him for one more week just to make some cash, but you know some people might want to hold him through to his buys. So hopefully Sardis comes back into the side. The other reason why Peter Wright being injured is important is for Nick Bryan owners. So Nick Bryan, I think, personally, now that I haven't thought about it too much because I'm not going either, but I think Nick Bryan's the better option than Bailey Williams. I know Bailey Williams offers the forward ruck sort of thing. I probably should be comparing him to Darcy Cameron, I suppose, then. I would rather go... No, I think Darcy Cameron's probably the better pick. But in terms of if you're going to go for just money, I think Nick Bryan's the better pick. But then again, I just don't know if that's something you want to be doing. Having the big ruckman, I think, is so important, so I probably wouldn't be going either. But Nick Bryan, I think, has the ability to average 90 plus and make you decent money. So just watch this space. You know, if you're short on rucks, like really short, like you only got one ruck, maybe it's an option. Nick Cox, I think, played really well in the VFL. I think he'll come back this week. So I think Nick Cox, if you did have him, and you probably shouted that he was going to, not be in the side after 2.8% of people owning him, I think he's got some cash gen to go. So I think he'll come back this week with all the injuries and hopefully do well for all those owners that still have a Nick Cox. Let's have a look now at the mid-season draft. So mid-season draft, as you can see, the picks below there. There is a few relevant ones, hopefully. They get a game. There was actually an article on the Supercoach website itself. I don't know if anyone ever reads these articles. Like I never even noticed they were there. And then I just scrolled down and I seen they had one, and it was actually quite good, like quite handy for Supercoach. I don't find these things seem to be like really cookie cutter and just, I don't know, like they obviously got to be quite wary of what they put on these. So for me, I was kind of like, is it really going to help me? Like, I don't know, but it actually looks pretty decent. So reading through the article before, so let's have a look. I'll just stop this video from starting. And have a look. So Jackson Artemis, pick 1, went to Essendon. He's a defender that we spoke about before. I'll just read out this little thing. So number 1 pick in the mid-season draft. Number 1 Supercoach buy. Artemis is a smooth mover who will be in line for a debut at the struggling Bombers sooner rather than later. He has averaged 19 disposals this season as a rebounding defender and tallied 127 Supercoach points, 27 disposals, 7 intercepts and a goal in his last VFL game. So nice. But the price obviously makes them really attractive as well. They are priced at 99k, so bang for buck, these guys are going to be good value and sort of like that next rung. In 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to be trading in these guys. Hopefully, if they're getting a game, bring in those guys at a bottom basement and have good job security of gold. You probably won't be trading these guys to make cash, but it's good to bring in and maximising the money you've earned now. Bringing in these guys at the bottom basement price, and they can cover our players if they're injured late in the season, and possibly some of them for sort of cash generation. Marcus Herbert went to West Coast from Geelong VFL, averaging 110 in the VFL. To put that in perspective here, it says Tom McCarthy averaged 93 before being taken, and Herbert has followed him to the West Coast Eagles, halfback midfielder I think he's only got midfield status in Supercoach. Has the best chance of replicating McCarthy's efforts from last year's mid-season crop. Across the past 4 VFL seasons, Herbert has averaged 92, 89, 103 and 110. So on the rise, having watched him closely at Geelong VFL for the past 2 seasons, he is ready to make an impact from the get-go. I've watched him a little bit. Seems like a tidy player, busy, nice disposal, seems to just chip off those little short targets, and just a really tidy player, real busy. I expect him to be a decent scorer if he can get a game. I think he gets a lot of the pill, so I think he's a nice option. Joel Fitzgerald is just putting up video game numbers in the VFL. So Joel out of Williamstown, Fitzgerald has been an absolute ball magnet this season for Williamstown, averaging 34 disposals, 22 uncontested possessions, 6 clearances, 6 tackles, showing he can do it on the inside and outside. The only question mark is how much opportunity he will get in a relatively settled Melbourne midfield. If he gets the minutes, look, it's hard. I just have doubts on players getting. They either might get drafted as midfielders now, but I don't know if there's many teams that are just going to have a player from the mid-season draft go straight into the midfield. Probably likely to play sort of like half-forward roles and stuff like that. But if he can get some centre bounces and get midfield minutes, the bloke can clearly get the ball, so could be an option. This one could be a detrimental sort of pick for us, especially the Darcy Cameron owners. So Harrison Coe going to Collingwood from the VFL, averaging 110. Coe might just be the man to partner with Cameron in the ruck, it says here. The 26-year-old stands 204 centimetres and can hurt sides in the air and at ground level forward. He tallied 23 hitouts, 7 to advantage, 16 disposals and 11 contested possessions and 6 marks per game for Frankston this season. So you can take this one of two ways, I think. So they're either drafting a 26-year-old to come in and partner with Darcy Cameron now, and a lot of people are looking at it like that, but I think it can also mean that they're bringing in a guy that if Darcy Cameron is to go down, at least they have an option that can play now and be competitive. So I wouldn't just say they're just bringing in a ready-made player that can play with Cameron or take his sort of centre bounces now. So let's watch this space, see what happens. I wouldn't be, even if he does play, maybe he plays more of a forward role, and because I just think Cameron's a good ruckman. I think we got a little bit carried away, or maybe they're getting a bit carried away with Steen doing the centre bounce. I don't see Cameron as being that poor at the centre bounce. But in terms of Supercoach, hopefully Cameron solo rucks for people that are bringing him in, and he can continue to get the big scores. And the number 5 on their list was Hugo Hall-Kahan to the Adelaide Football Club. Supercoach average of 100 in the VFL this year, also from Williamstown. The 2-time mid-season draftee sneaks into the top 5 after this comment from Adelaide recruiting manager Hamish Ogilvie. So he said that he's someone who can add value right now and we believe has potential to be a long-term player for the club. The Crows need drive from halfback, and Hall-Kahan brings that, averaging 27 disposals, 6 marks after being swung into defence this season for Williamstown. So a couple of Williamstown boys. He's been drafted twice in this mid-season draft. I think last time was to Sydney, maybe. I think he could be an option. Obviously, he has that defensive status as well. So him and Artemis could be our sort of defensive downgrades. The other players to consider, they've got Caleb May, Mitch Bajatsky. I think Mitch Bajatsky might play, but I just don't know if he's got the scoring ability. He's averaging 86 at VFL level as a key forward. I think he might play at Collingwood through the injuries, but who knows. This Oliver Franco is interesting to me, averaging 144 in the Sandful. This is the video game numbers as well, man. Average 31 disposals, 8 tackles, 6 clearances. If he gets a chance, watch out for Ollie Franco. And then you got Kai Nand, Max Beattie, Lucas Cook. I don't know if they're going to get games. Who knows? And then you can just see every single pick there. All 99k. So all good value for money. How many DPP players did we get out of all of that? I think they're the ones that I'm sort of really interested in if they play. So you got Campbell Lake, got DPP, mid forward from St Kilda, and then Hugo Hall-Kahan, mid defence for Adelaide. Hopefully they get a game and we can bring them in for the cheap. So that's our mid-season draft. I think I could speculate on who's going to play, who's not going to play, but this is just the thing that we need to watch. I think there might be a stage where you might have to go early on some of these players, just because you're going to want to downgrade to upgrade, as quick as possible to make your team as good as possible, as quick as possible. But I think I'd rather take a risk on one of these guys if they get a game and maybe I'm bringing them in after one game, or maybe they've just been selected, because I just don't know if there's going to be many options coming up. So you might have to take a risk on some of these guys. So have a look, do your research, and maybe you might get a diamond in the rough. The other thing to mention is our new DPP, so our new dual position players. So I'll put them down below, as you can see. Our new dual position players, Max Home, the ones that I want to talk about. There's obviously more, but the relevant ones for you guys to make this video less than 500 hours long. Max Holmes, Cam Zurhaar, Brent Daniels, Toby Murray, Jagger Smith, Colby McKercher, and Milan Murdoch. So let's have a look at some of these players. Max Holmes, I think, is going to be D1. So you can see here he's averaging 117 this year. He's, to me, a must get. So a good, get him in now or get him in after his bye, I think is the way to go. Cam Zurhaar. So funnily enough, he's got defensive status, but being recently swung back to the forward line. And Colby McKercher's kind of done the opposite, right? Is a defender, got forward status, and has now sort of been put back to defence. Not many people have Cam Zurhaar. Like, I'm surprised at the low ownership. I thought more people traded him in, but he's only in like 2% of sides. So not many people got sucked in. He's in less than 2%. He's not even really that relevant. So if you have him, probably get rid of him. That's what I'd be saying. Brent Daniels, I don't know how many people even went into Brent Daniels either, but I think he is could be good coverage, maybe. Definitely, I don't think he's a keeper, unless you think you can sort of average 95 plus in that forward line, maybe as your F6. I don't think you can do it, but I wouldn't say it's impossible. 4% of sides, pretty much. If you got him, I think it's a hold, right? I think it's a hold and hold and see, unless you're, in a luxurious position to sort of upgrade quickly. Toby Murray was an interesting one, because I was actually thinking about bringing him in a couple of weeks, and then he dished out a 0 last week, so happy I didn't. I was going to bring him in a couple of weeks ago, for flexibility in the ruck through the buys, but I decided not to. It was too much price. I went with the bottom line, and the bottom sort of basement guys. But he scored 105 after I thought about it. I was going to bring him in after this first 72. So 186K I was going to pay. But then he did a 73, and I was like, maybe I should have got him. And then 105, and then I was like, fuck, I really missed out. And he scored a 0, thank God. It made me feel so much better. Imagine these guys that traded him in. There's like nearly 1% of people traded Toby Murray in, and he scored a 0. It's so stiff. It's so stiff. And he'd probably get dropped now too with Tex coming back. So that's a rough one for people that own Toby Murray. But maybe if he keeps his spot on the side, I don't know, don't give up. Jagger Smith. So Jagger Smith gained forward status. So Jagger is an interesting one. Obviously lost his CBAs under Michael Voss, and then everyone was like, he's not going to reach the heights that we thought, even though it's still good. Gets the CBAs back, starts dominating once Josh Fraser takes over. I think I don't know if he's got back-to-back tons or just back-to-back decent scores. I know he's got 1 ton, I'm pretty sure. So 104, 79, 108. So this is where so he's still in 45% of sides as well. This is where people need to be not so stubborn. So if you have traded Jagger Smith, but you think he can average 100, bring him back in. Don't be the person that's like, I'm not bringing him, that's a waste of a trade. It's not, because you're going to trade someone else in who you think is going to average that. But if you think Jagger Smith is that guy, you're getting him for 391. Just do it. Just bring him back in. I don't think he is, so I'm not going to bring him back in. But if you do think he's that guy, you can't be stubborn, because all of a sudden it'll cost you 100K and you'll be bringing him in when he's 490 or 530 or whatever it is. If you think he's the guy, it's not a bad time to trade into Jagger Smith. It feels weird going a rookie. And he's just not for me. I just don't think he's going to do that. Like, it'd just be unbelievable if he averaged sort of 95 plus. But not impossible, man. He's a pretty special talent. So, good hold if you got him. Obviously, hold him. Hold him until he lets you down. Colby McKercher's the other one. Like I said, got forward status, but has been swung back into defence. This is a watch. I think if you have him, you're probably holding him, or either holding him past this round or getting rid of him now. Not one I'd be trading into unless we really see an improvement in scores. That's how I feel about Colby McKercher. And the other one is Milan Murdoch. I think he's a good hold if you've held him this far. Kind of got lucky in a way that he sort of scored a 90 plus after a really poor score to keep his cash, and what made him an easier one to hold now for me. Provides good coverage. I'm trying to figure out a way to keep him. As long as if he keeps scoring well, I'm going to find a way to keep him to try to be my coverage guy so that I don't have to trade one in later in the season, or I can just do a straight sort of swap later in the season to like a guy with a really high spike score. But for now, Milan Murdoch is going to be a keeper for me through to his bye, hopefully. That's at least what I want from Milan Murdoch. Hopefully he can keep scoring. He's changed to a tagging role, what's kind of pissing me off because I just got a feeling he's going to go to Archie Roberts this weekend, and that's just going to, come on, man. We don't need that. We don't need. Just run around, Milan. You were having a good time last time. You were still scoring 80 pluses, running around without anyone. Just let Archie go back to racking up pills. That doesn't matter, please. Give the people what they want, Dean Solomon and Milan Murdoch and Minnie. Just give us what we want. We want Archie Roberts floating around the back line, picking up cheap ball, don't matter. And we want Milan Murdoch just getting the ball when he wants the ball, going forward and kicking goals. So hopefully that can happen. So that is our DPPs that are relevant. There is more that got status, but not so relevant to us as super coaches. Let's get stuck into the injuries. So I'm not gonna I don't want to go through every single injury. There's hundreds. I'll just go through the super coach relevant ones and speak about each one and what I think you should be doing with each player if you have them. First one I'll speak about is Isaac Rankin. So Isaac Rankin, I think he's a top 6 forward. It's handy that he has the DPP. I think maybe he could be that guy that I was talking about that Milan Murdoch turns into later in the season for me. But if you have him, he's been listed here, calf injury, TBC. I think if he misses 2 weeks, it's a tricky one, this one. I think he's top 6, so if you traded him in recently or just have him, I think I'd be holding. It depends on your situation. If you've got a high rank and you're trying to maintain rank, maybe you have to sell him. If you get an inkling that it's going to be a long-term injury, like a 4 or 5 week, I just go now. If you're uncertain, mate, I sort of lean towards being proactive, but it also depends on how many trades you have. If I was low on trades, I probably wouldn't get rid of him. But if I had enough trades to think to still get to a full premium team when I want to, I'd probably be booting him now. So that's how I feel about Isaac Rankin. I think he's a star though, obviously, and but his body just lets him down as well. It's a real tricky one. Dane Zorko missed 2 weeks already with soreness, and apparently he's going to miss 2 more weeks now. He's bloody sore, man. But he's getting on in age. He's still value for money at the price. If he does come back, he's probably at least he's had a big rest, I suppose, and he could be value for money at the price. But there's always going to be those injuries concerns with someone that age. But no questioning his quality as a player. Jacob Wiedering, not so relevant himself, but relevant for Wade Dirksen. So for those of you guys that traded in Wade Dirksen like I did, I think Dirksen holds his spot anyway with Wiedering coming back in the side. But what do I know? I know nothing. I've never been to the Carlton Football Club in my life. So, but just from the eye test, I think he played well. And obviously being a Northern Territory boy myself, rooting for Wade Dirksen. So hopefully he does keep his spot and can play for my Supercoach side throughout the buys. It'd be awesome if he hold his spot to the end of the year, because I don't think I'm going to be selling Wade Dirksen. I think he's just going to be a coverage guy for me, hopefully. Sam Durham, relevant on a few fronts. He's relevant himself, but also relevant for the players that come in for him. So Sardis. So hopefully Sardis gets in this week. If you're owner of Durham, you're obviously holding. It's a concussion. You probably miss a week, maybe 2 maximum. Hopefully Sardis keeps his spot even with Durham back in. For those people that have held on to Elijah Sardis. Hayden Young out with concussion. He's a test for this week. He's relevant himself as well. He's still in a high percentage of teams. But also, how many teams is Young still in? This one surprised me when I had a look at this. How many teams do you think Hayden Young's in? Before I have a look now, I was thinking maybe 4% or something, because I feel like when people get someone like a Hayden Young, they trade out quickly. I actually can't remember how many. Hopefully, this is actually more than 4% now. I was just look at a dickhead. 12%. Yeah, so he's still still a fair chunk of teams, right? So I think with Hayden, he's an interesting hold. Could be the guy that you have as like coverage, but he can also be he's a gun, right? So people have got him in their midfield. Yeah, it just seems like a lot of sort of money to have on an injured midfielder, but hasn't scored below 80. I don't know. If you got him, you're going to hold him, right? So could be back this week, but can also affect players like Murphy Reed, Caleb Sarong, Brayshaw. So just be mindful of who gets their midfield minutes taken away when Hayden Young's back into the side, because he's the Rolls Royce of that side, I feel like it, when he's up and about. So they play their best football when Hayden Young is definitely in the side in the midfield. So be wary of that. Next one is Lockie Whitfield, who's in my side, pulled out late last week with a hamstring awareness, or hamstring something they described it as. He's a test for this week. I don't think he'll play. And then they have the bye. So I think after the bye, he'll be back. So just be mindful of that if you're going to trade into Lockie Whitfield, obviously, because he's probably not going to play for the next 2 weeks. What's a shame, but if he does play, great. And he's obviously a keeper. And if you got him, you're going to hold. Tim English in protocols, he's gone down twice. He's relevant on a couple of fronts. I think he's probably going to be what Darcy Cameron is now, and the value that he poses now is what I think Tim English will be in a few weeks. Probably a similar sort of low 400s price, but has the ability to be sort of 1.5 plus. But he also affects the ruckmen that are coming up against him. So if he was to ruck this week against Darcy Cameron, I don't expect Darcy Cameron to go as well as if he was rucking against Rory Lobb. But I still think he'll be underdone if he comes back. He's had a history of concussion struggles, so be mindful of that as well. I'm still not 100% sure that he comes back this week, to be honest, anyway. And then Nazaya Wanganeen Miller-Anaz. So superstar player, obviously, and once again, relevant on a few fronts, not just himself, but the players that he affects in his team. He's listed as a calf 1 week away. If he does come back in a week's time, I'd be surprised as well, just because I think they'll sit him out. And why would you be? They are pushing for finals, I suppose, but if you got him, obviously you're holding. The players he affects, though, seems to be basically the whole of St Kilda. So Jack Sinclair, he could affect Banfield's job security, Sam Flanders, Max Hall if you go on that path. All of them do better with him out of the side, but obviously St Kilda's a better team than that. So just be mindful of role changes and how the cards are, how the cards land, or how the, I don't know, what is that saying? How the deck shuffle. I don't know. You know what I mean, though. It's escaping my mind right now, but I think Naz, he has such a massive effect on St Kilda, their game plan, and all these players' roles. So just be mindful how those other players get affected when Naz comes back into the side. That is our injuries. So now looking at the players that are on the bubble, our bubble boys, and I think we have two belter options this week. I'll definitely touch on those two, but then we'll just have a brief look at the other ones that I think are pretty much no-goes. I'll talk about a defensive one just because some people might be forced to bring in a defender. So I want to give you guys at least an option to have a look at one. So let's have a look at the players on the bubble. Was there a player that was selected? Oh, it's Will Day. That's good news, actually. Will Day back in. So, he's obviously had a torrid time with injury. I don't know if he's very Supercoach relevant unless he comes back and just sort of starts tearing it up, because at his price, he's still pretty ridiculously priced for someone that I feel like hasn't played for, I don't know, 10 years or whatever. Obviously a bit of an over-exaggeration, but hasn't played for a long time. So wishing him all the best. Obviously was a superstar before he got riddled by injuries. So let's have a look at these guys on the bubble. Charlie Banfield, our first one here. Handy, that is a mid-forward. Has that DPP, what is super handy. His break-even is, while my slow computer loads, minus 60. Expected to go up 43k, probably go up 60k because I reckon he'll score more than 38. 5% of sides, expect that to be 20 plus at least. The only thing for me is job security moving forward. For me, I would be trading him to try to get through to the buys, to his buy, and then I'd be cashing him in, is probably what I'd be looking at. Mind you, if he had job security through to then, I'd have to consider whether I trade him or Ison, probably, because Charlie Banfield having DPP is very handy. But Ison also might have it by then. So I'd just be, that's a watch. That's a watch for me. Then Ison, the player that we just spoke about, he's an A+ sort of rookie to go down to. I think his job security is great. He has that electricity. He looks like a good talent. I really like Jack Ison. Could be, he might contribute to on-field scoring during these buys. So if you don't have Jack Ison, bring him in. If you don't have Charlie Banfield, probably bring him in. I would say Charlie Banfield's like an A-. Yeah, I'd say A-, and Jack Ison's basically an A+ at this stage of the year. Noah Roberts-Thompson on the bubble, probably not one we're going to go near, especially when you have Jack Ison. If he's selected, though, could be one you go if you need to bring in 2 midfielders, or you went Ison early. Tommy A, if he's an interesting one, because I think if he plays next week, obviously he's got the bye this week, I think he could be a decent option. He gets enough of the ball to score all right. He just needs a bit of luck, some score assists or something like that, and then these scores will turn from 40s to 55s, so it makes it worth it. I think he gets enough of the ball, though, to do well. So I wouldn't be, if you need a forward next week, there's going to be people downgrading forwards next week. Maybe a Milan Murdoch, maybe I don't know who you guys have got, Cook, Philippou, players like that. If you need a forward to bring in, maybe this is your guy next week. So it's nice to have someone on the bubble that potentially could be playing. Harry Oliver, this is my defensive option probably of the round. I think if Whitfield doesn't play, I think he'll play. I'd be very worried about his job security after that, but we just don't really have many options. You'd have to weigh up whether or not going Harry Oliver now is better than going Jackson Artemis maybe for the future. And just hoping that Jackson Artemis gets a gig and stays in the side. Personally, and I don't encourage this very often, I would probably be going Jackson Artemis over Harry Oliver. I think just because he's cheaper, and I think there's a chance that I'm almost certain Harry Oliver won't keep his spot eventually, and I think Jackson Artemis could play, and if he doesn't, at least he costs the least amount, right? That's my thinking behind that. Charlie West, unless you need the scoring, but if you need the scoring, you're in trouble anyway. But if you need the scoring, then go the player that's playing. Charlie West, I think he might keep his spot on the Collingwood side if this new Pajatsky doesn't get a gig straight away. They're down on players. Elliot went down with a horrific knee injury. That sucked, man. I don't like Collingwood, but fuck, that looked painful. And obviously he's a superstar player. That's rough, man. I think he was I think he got attention in the off-season and was looking at signing a 3-year deal with GWS, but stayed at Collingwood. Or I could have got that wrong. I think he stayed for loyalty. He's obviously been a great player for Collingwood, and it just sucks to see a player go down like that. Anyway, not that that's important for Supercoach, but just shitty news for Jamie Elliott. But I think Charlie West, as a result, might be able to hold a spot there. So maybe someone to look out for your forward line as well. I don't think the scoring is going to be there, but beggars can't be choosers at this stage of the season. So keep that in mind as well. Okay, so this is where I bring you guys just the golden nuggets. Just players that are flying under the radar. And I have a couple of good ones for you this week, I reckon. I'm going to try to bring you guys these throughout the rounds. And I know you're probably scoffing at me going, what the... But hear me out. I don't think... If I showed you this and put any other player's name next to it, if I put Hugh McCluggage's name next to this, you'd buy him. You would buy him. And this is why. So let's have a look at George Hewitt's last season. So last season, George Hewitt, he has, look at these scores. 171, mind you, to start off. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 scores of 120 or more. And 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 scores over 100 or more. 18 scores of 100 or more. He was priced at 634,300 at one stage of the season. It's ridiculous. Playing sort of that 100 minutes sort of game time average, as you can see. Obviously, I just don't think this is a guy out of form. I think this is a guy that lost his role under a new coach as the club sort of looked, not for a scapegoat, but to change things. He sort of got punished as a result or pushed out. I think he's got that role back. I'd like to see another week, depending on what his break-even is as well. 102, yeah. So you can get another look. If he goes a ton against Geelong this week, I'd be so tempted. I'd be so tempted as a pod. He's in 0.2% of sides. He's got his bye coming up, so you might want to see 2 rounds. But then he's just sort of like that awkward price. But still, even then, this guy has the ability to perform like a top line. He's not the pretty name. He's not the, he's not sort of like your history. He's not your Noah Anderson. He's not your Brownlow sort of contender. But this is a guy that can score serious Supercoach points. So don't sleep on my man George Hewitt, man. Don't sleep on my man George Hewitt. I'm number one George Hewitt. When he's averaging 105 plus, remember this. I gave you guys this nugget when he was 486k. And then if he doesn't do well, then let's just not mention it, eh? Yeah, I reckon that's a good deal. Max Hall is my next one. This one's role dependent. And there's a few things that need to line up, but this is, to me, I can see this guy being the next Riley Sanders. Like, we've missed the Riley Sanders boat now. If you wanted to jump on Riley Sanders, if you want to jump on Riley Sanders now, you're basically paying for what he is, right? You're paying sort of par pricing. You're paying, what do they call it? Commercial price or whatever it is. Max Hall is below value right now. He's unders. If he can maintain this role. So with Naz out, he's seen more CBAs and it's reflected in his score. I think he's got all of a sudden 101, 102. Attending more CBAs, and this kid's a star. Don't get it wrong. He is a star. I really like him. Gets forward, kicks goals. Saints look better with him. I reckon when Naz comes back, I expect him to keep his minutes. That's just my prediction. I don't know that. I think they'll take away the minutes from Jackson Macrae. Max Hall is their future. He isn't Jackson Macrae. And he's there now, to be honest. He's one of their best players now. So for me, I would definitely be having Max Hall in the centre. And as an F6, maybe he's your man. The buy sucks. So does Riley Sanders. So if people have found a way to get him in, maybe you can find a way to get Max Hall in. And he's at that price. He's at that 415 price. Can he average 100? I think he might be able to do it. They're my 2 under the radars. Just absolute gold I'm giving you guys for nothing. Trade targets. So these are the guys that I had a look at the most traded in. These are the sort of premium players that players are going up to. Obviously, there's Ison and all those sort of downgrade options, but these are the upgrade options that people are looking at. So let's talk about the first. I'm going to group Isaac Heaney and Bailey Smith together. Super premiums, sort of top 5 midfielders. These players are great to get in this is the week to get those players in. All right. So Bailey Smith has a lower break even than Isaac Heaney, but Isaac Heaney comes up against Richmond. I wouldn't be worrying too much about break evens with these 2 players. You're getting them in to keep them for the rest of the year. You're probably going to get them in now or get them in after their bye. I don't expect Isaac Heaney to be much cheaper at the bye. He'll probably be 600k-ish at his bye. And Bailey Smith, I think, will probably go up at his bye. So personally, if you can get them both in, get them both in. I don't know where you're getting that money from, but bringing one of these guys in this week, I think, is a good option. Be mindful of your buys. Obviously, with Bailey Smith, it's a little bit less relevant with Isaac Heaney, but every team's different. I don't know. Maybe you got heaps of Swans players, or players that have that same buy. But personally, these players are gold to have through the buys, I think, because their spike scoring just gives you that leg up through the buys. Like, a lot of people are going to have a lot of premiums that score fairly similar. There's going to be rounds like next round when there's only one buy where basically you're taking 18 best scores. You want those big spike scores, not only for captaincy option, but just for on-field scoring. So have a look at those 2. The other one's Max Holmes that I'll talk about. Now that he's got defensive status, he's just a must-have, right? He's at a good price. For me, I would probably be leaning at bringing in a Heaney this week over a Max Holmes, and then I would wait till the bye. But I have to bring in Max Holmes because for me to afford the trades, I need to get rid of Lindsay, and I don't have the DPP capability to do it. So for me, Max Holmes is the clear, obvious defensive option to bring in at a good price for someone that averages 117. He's a slam dunk. Easy option. Next one's Cal Wilkie that we'll talk about. Cal Wilkie is an interesting one because he's cheap, 437k. Definitely unders for how he can perform. He started to get a little bit of attention. Imagine when he had Pat Voss is a pain in the ass, man. Good on him. He's playing his role, but fuck, you'd be dreading going out and playing. And Pat Voss comes up to you and is tagging you, kicking goals on you, rubbing it today. He's funny, man. He's funny. If you had him on your team, you'd love it, honestly. But for the rest of us 17 teams that don't have a Paddy Voss, fuck, man, he is so frustrating. But if you had him on your team, you'd love him. Cal Wilkie, yeah, I think the buy obviously sucks. For me, I think he's a great value. I think he's a great option. But for me, it's between him and Max Holmes, and I'm clearly going Max Holmes. But I can see for a budget price, he's a good option, and can be top 8, I think, possibly. I don't know. I'm always put off by keybacks, but he's got a great internet game, and they use him as a distributor as well. He's got a nice kick. The Bulldogs went hard after him during the off season, and I wish we got him. Even at the time, I was like, just get him, just find a way. But he stayed loyal, and good on him for that as well. The next two I'll look at are sort of like the flavors of the week. I feel like people just going out there. Bailey Williams, Bailey J. Williams from West Coast, break even of -22. For me, it's a no, and I feel like it's just bursting the bubble on the fun of Supercoach. But is he gonna he's just got such a long history of just doing fuck all. But all of a sudden he's gone bang bang. But here he didn't have help in the ruck here, I don't think. I don't think that took away from his CBAs. Flynn might have played a couple of those games, but I'm pretty sure he's been solo ruck for a while. I don't think the rule change is all of a sudden just made Bailey Williams a gun ruckman. And there's enough evidence to show that he just hasn't done it in the past. But, can he average 90 plus? Maybe. I tend to say no. But if he does, then he's probably worth it. But for me, the way I'm thinking about it and the position that my team's in, I don't want to take a risk on this guy. I know I have to bring in the super premiums, Holmes, Heaney, Smith. They're my priority. I'm going to go to them. If Bailey J. Williams eventually is that price, I'll just pay it. I'll just forego his scoring now, and I'll just pay it when the time's right. So I'm not going to take the risk there. I'm just going to go the safe, proven products at the moment. Heaney, Holmes, Bailey Smith. That's the way I'm thinking about trading, because I want the guaranteed top liners. And I think my team's in a position to do that. But I understand not everyone's in that position. Some people need to take risks to make up rank, or they don't have the money. Bailey Williams could be the option. But personally, I just don't think he's going to do it. Next one, Darcy Cameron. I can see the allure. I actually like the pick. Obviously, with this new ruckman coming in, the mid-season draft could murky the waters a little bit. But 44 break even, I can see a world where he averages 105 plus because he's done it before. That gives me a bit of comfort if I'm making the pick. I think he can. Obviously, had a really good outing on the weekend, also against Bailey Williams, who I don't think is that good of a ruck, who I just explained. Be interesting to see how he goes this week against the Dogs. Has done pretty well in the past. He'd probably take those scores, right? And they're probably against English as well. So watch this space. I think it depends on your team structure. If you had the 3 big rucks, you're not downgrading one to go to Darcy Cameron, I don't think, to make 200k. But then I think about that. You never know. But if you're trying to chase rank or trying to get a value for money pick, Darcy Cameron's probably value for money there. And the last one on the trade targets is Keziah Pickett. I love Cossie. For those that have followed the videos so far, he's probably my favourite player outside the Bulldogs. I just love watching him play. I don't think you can get a player that can take mark of the week, goal of the week, hit someone into next week, all in the same game, rack up 30 touches and kick 3 goals. And then for some reason he can do all that and then only score 100. But I just feel like he looks like he's playing a lot better than what he scores. But he's still a good option for the forward line. 41%. Man, the amount of people that traded in and he's just dished out there. I think he dished out. So many people traded him in around this stage here. And he dished out a 65 and a 60. That's so stiff. I've seen some people trade out like Flanders, Pickett, and Flanders has gone 3 tons in a row and then Pickett dishes out 260s. That's so stiff. But I think he's a good option. At the price, I think the buy is a little bit sticky, but and I think he's going to run into a tag this week. So I don't know. Maybe I'd wait through to the buys if I didn't have him. But he obviously is a nice price for a lot of people, like 460K or 470. Is probably a nice price to pay for someone like a Cozzy Pickett. So I won't put you off going there. Alrighty, let's talk about the skipper. Skipper for the week. Skipper of the ship. So I've listed him here. I've got sort of like a ranking or a grade that I think they are. I don't really like to overthink my skipper too much. Looking into old matchups, and I just think who's going to dominate this week, and I think it's going to be Brodie Grundy. It makes sense at the SCG against Richmond, against no ruck. Sign me up. I'm just going to go Brodie Grundy. So Brodie Grundy is going to be my vice captain, and Nick Dacos is going to be my vice. And the reason being is because I go for the Bulldogs, and I just see this guy tear us up all the time, and I just think maybe I'm down on the Bulldogs because I go for them, but I just feel like every midfielder just dominates us. And this is Dacos' pass against us, 125, 156, 139. I think he's a safe backup. I know he's got that injury sort of cloud, but I don't think it matters with Dacos. He racks up 35 touches anyway, and I think he's just been poor by foot. I think it's going to come back. I think he's going to recover. Heaney and Smith, you got Heaney against Richmond. I really need to say more? Then that's probably a good option. And obviously a chance of getting one of those crazy games that he has, like a 30 disposal, 4-goal game, that he is definitely capable of. And then Bailey Smith, no one can run with this guy, man. No one can. Gout would struggle to run with Bailey Smith, man. He just runs all day. And look, he had James Jordan tag on the weekend, and he just broke him. Like Bailey Smith broke him. And I think it had a lot to do with Geelong sort of winning the game. And then they're like, Sydney are like, we need to get more attacking. Let's drop the tag. Try to get more attacking. It's not working. It definitely didn't work when you drop the tag. Don't do that against Geelong. Don't drop the attention on Smith at Holmes, because if you do drop, that is cut you up, man. Smith is a gun. M1 at the moment and having a great season. Obviously, I wish he was still at the Dogs, but I'm glad he's doing well over there. I don't know. He was pretty good for us, and obviously the end was a little bit of a poor ending, but still a fan. And then Marcus Bontempelli, my king. I got him in here at number 5. I kind of feel like I'm cheating on him a little bit, but he's an animal. He's an animal playing with one leg. I could talk about Bontempelli all day. You probably don't want to hear it, but he has a chance to just smash out a massive score with one leg, and remind all of yours that I forgot. He's the man. He's number 1. 186, 123, 125. He could be in for a big one. The injury concern just worries me that he cops a knock and is sore. And I've seen it in a few weeks where he looks really sore. Looked good last week, but he's finishing these quarters. Last quarter's really quiet. What's really strange for Bont, and I think it's something to do with the soreness that he sort of accrues over the game. So I just steering away from Marcus Bontempelli at this stage, but I think in 3 quarters he can still score 125, and that's why I've got him there. So. And then if he runs him out, he scores 160. So I think Marcus Bontempelli is a good pick for captain and the skipper this week. So we're going Grundy the way we're going is Grundy Vice into Nick Dacos, but that's how I've sort of structured it. I think those top 4 are basically all equal option, and then I'd have Bonty just trailing in behind. And then my team round review. So what we did this round, you can see my trades that I've made below. So we traded out Josh Lindsay to Max Holmes. We traded out Oscar Steen, put Kalani White into that empty ruck spot, and brought in Jack Ison. And then we got rid of Jack Watkins, who, even though he was disappointing, still made us near 80k, what is really handy because it's kind of our leftover cash this week. left us with 90k, and we're bringing in Charlie Banfield. This is how we're going to line up this week. As you can see, our bye players are on the bench. Whitfield, I'm unsure if he's going to play. I don't think he will. Hopefully Will Edwards is selected and can come in and cover, what would mean that we have a full 23. We have a full 23. We're going to use the loop with Jack Ison. So we're going to get a look at Ison because he plays early in the round. Have a look at him. If he plays well, take Anderson off. Probably not going to matter, but why not have a look, right? Why not have a look? I could probably do the same with Wade Dirksen as well. I'm just wary of Lockie Whitfield. I still can do it though, so actually I'll do that as well. I'll get a look at Wade Dirksen and sort of pick between him and Will Edwards. But apart from that, that's going to be the end of the video, I suppose. So if you like this new format of the longer video and me breaking down these sort of things every single week, I'm thinking about doing that every Wednesday. I suppose this will probably come out on a Thursday though, but recording it on the Wednesday. If you like the way that it's done like this, let me know in the comments, like, subscribe, be part of the journey with me. And then the other video that I'll do weekly is kind of like a round review and how we went, have a chat. And I'm looking to do other things in the future, like streaming some sort of Q&A content and stuff like that. But we're working on it. We're building something, I think. I don't even know, to be honest. But, hopefully you guys have a good rest of the week. We've got footy tomorrow night, what's unreal. And then, enjoy. Hopefully your teams do well over the weekend. You have a good weekend itself, and your Supercoach team gets those green arrows, and we go up in rank. Hopefully my team can get in the top 1,000 this week if you've been following, chasing that top 200 down, and then we'll go from there. But